Hey guys, so after testing this setup in 4K and 1440p, it's time for the final part, 1080p. Same system, nothing changed, Ryzen 7 7700 and RTX 5080, and honestly this is where things might get a bit unusual, because at this resolution it's not really about the GPU anymore. Starting with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. On Ultra RT settings with Nvidia Hairworks turned off, we're seeing around 103 FPS on average, with drops not going below 60. In this title, the Ryzen 7 7700 is actually keeping the GPU almost fully utilized.
Oh! Good news, boy, knows much on the travel to the environments. Oh, strange phrases. Yeah? What things? I don't need them separate, but all in one big house, like ants in an
Next up, PUBG. On Ultra settings, we're getting around 150 FPS on average, with GPU usage sitting between 38 and 60%. So yeah, clearly not GPU bound here. Fortnite. On Epic settings with ray tracing enabled, we're seeing around 120 FPS with GPU usage sitting at around 80 to 95%. Let's move on to Red Dead Redemption 2. On Ultra settings with DLSS turned off, we're getting around 96 FPS on average, with the GPU fully utilized. Moving on to Cyberpunk 2077. At max settings with path tracing enabled, we're getting around 56 FPS on average, with 1% lows dropping to about 40. Next up, Forza Horizon 5. On extreme settings with max ray tracing, we're getting around impressive 188 FPS on average. Moving on to Hogwarts Legacy. On ultra settings with ray tracing enabled, we are seeing around 95 FPS on average, with the GPU only about half utilized.
Must be different. Starting Hogwarts.
Acceptable.
Here, have a sip. Go on.
Sure, you weren't born
If I
with
didn't
wings.
call myself defendant,
I'm sure you've used them. Oh, what did I do wrong this time?
That so-called school, you will receive an outstanding one way or another.
I can't go up there.
Now let's check Alan Wake 2. On max settings with ultra ray tracing, we're getting around 50 FPS. Pretty stable overall. But if you drop ray tracing down to medium and enable 2x frame generation, performance goes up to around 100 FPS, which feels much smoother. Next up, Counter-Strike 2. On very high settings, we're getting around 320 FPS on average, with 1% lows staying above 150 FPS, which is really solid. But what's more interesting here, GPU usage is only around 50 to 60%, which means that with a more powerful processor you could easily push even higher frame rates. Now for Diablo IV. At max settings we're getting around 127 FPS on average, with 1% lows not dropping below 85 FPS. And once again, the GPU isn't fully utilized here, sitting at around 60 to 70% usage. Moving on to Horizon Forbidden West. At max settings we're seeing around 152 FPS on average, with 1% lows at about 113 FPS, which is really strong result overall.
A lot of arrows in that machine. Better take a closer look. Someone took down this machine recently.
Next up, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chernobyl. On epic settings with DLSS and frame generation turned off, we're getting around 100 FPS on average, with 1% low staying above 70 FPS. And in this case, the GPU is almost fully utilized. Switching DLSS to quality, we're now seeing around 109 FPS on average. At the same time, GPU usage drops to around 80%, so we're clearly starting to move away from a fully GPU bound scenario. And once you enable frame generation, performance jumps all the way up to around 207 FPS on average, with GPU usage climbing back to around 85 to 95%. Alright, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. At max settings with full path tracing and no upscaling, we're getting around 55 FPS on average. So yeah, still that kind of cinematic heavy experience here. Up next, Silent Hill 2 Remake. On Epic settings with ray tracing enabled and no DLSS, we're seeing around 89 FPS on average, with 1% lows not dropping below 50 FPS. Moving on to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. On Ultra settings with DLSS set to native anti-aliasing, we're getting around 110 FPS on average, with 1% lows not dropping below 70 FPS. GPU usage sits between 75 and 90% here.
I assume you can hear that damn dog of yours barking. Can you sort...
Next up, Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced. On very high settings with ray tracing set to Ultra, we're seeing around 136 FPS on average, with 1% lows not dropping below 70 FPS. And GPU usage sits at around 70 to 80%.
I can hook you up with JB's tow truck. It ain't got glamour, but it's some money to be made.
So him and Tanya can smoke crack in peace? Homie, I'm good. Hey, open up, homie. Give me some room.
You want room? Go lose some weight with your fat ass. Hang it right there.
Shit, cool, homie.
We going right.
Okay.
Let's show these movie people how we roll. Remember, this is Utarian's car.
Hey, screw you too, homie.
What the fuck?
Oh, we filming shit here, huh?
Down this dirty motherfucker.
Uh-huh.
Come on, Frank.
Another one, Cronos the New Dawn. On Epic preset with DLSS turned off and ray tracing enabled, we're getting around 110 FPS on average, with no drops below comfortable 60 FPS, and in this case the GPU is well utilized, sitting at over 95% usage. Here is Arc Riders. On Epic settings with DLSS set to no anti-aliasing, we're getting around 126 FPS on average, with drops not going below 78 FPS. At the same time, GPU usage sits at around 60 to 70%. And here is Carmageddon Rock Shift. On ultra settings we're getting around 144 FPS on average, while the GPU isn't fully utilized. Next up, Dying Light the Beast. At max settings with DLSS set to native and ray tracing enabled, we're getting around 65 FPS on average, with 1% lows dropping to about 40 FPS. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. On very high settings with DLSS turned off and no frame generation, we're getting around 145 FPS on average, with the GPU almost fully utilized. So yeah, really strong performance here. Next up, Resident Evil Requiem. On max settings with path tracing enabled, we're getting around 100 FPS on average, with no drops below 80 FPS. Surprisingly smooth for such a heavy title.
It should be around here.
Did you hear Eric was promoted?
That asshole? What the hell are you
Finally, Forza Horizon 6. On extreme ray tracing settings, we're getting around 113 FPS on average, with 1% lows not dropping below 82 FPS. So yeah, a very smooth and well balanced result here.
To enter a unique section of road, the award-winning Nanadaru Kokakyo. It's the Loop Bridge. This is a double spiral road that circles up, up, and up, presenting you with a beautiful view right across to Mount Fuji. Open for public use in 1981,
So, what can we say about 1080p? At this resolution, the RTX 5080 is clearly not the limiting factor in many games. In a lot of cases, we're already seeing CPU bottlenecks even with the Ryzen 7 7700. Still, performance is extremely strong, high FPS, smooth gameplay, and plenty of headroom in most titles. So if you're planning to use a GPU like this for 1080p, you're definitely getting more than enough power, maybe even more than you actually need. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It really helps this channel grow. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!